Hello,
Uncle Lloyd,
how are you?
we
Sorry
got you.
about the delay.
Oh, that's okay. A lot of folks were guessing that the corporate media was trying to keep you off of this thing too.
Very funny. So, how are you? Sorry,
I'm doing okay.
the
How are you? How are you and the commish doing?
we haven't been out of the house for 6 weeks. In
Oh my
fact,
God.
our daughter is our caretaker, and she doesn't go out much either. We're in New York, where we already know two dead people. We already know in fact, a guy who was in our movie, a couple of our films, Alan Merrill, he died, and then Tiger from Disney and all that stuff, right?
Well,
We
my
don't even
condol.
have do you guys, hey, has your theater gotten any of this PPP money?
That's a good question. I know that we were trying to get it.
Yeah,
Um,
we do. The good news is Disney's gotten it. The big funds have gotten millions and millions of dollars. All the airplane CEOs have gotten it. But Troma and you and all that, nothing.
and I know that there's lawsuits being brought against these banks who were giving out loans to the
Billionaires,
people
yeah.
asking for the larger dollar amounts so they'd get that bigger commission.
Exactly. That's right.
Oh
In
my
fact,
God.
when we went to our bank, we've been there for 47 years, and we have no debt. And my partner and I are paying, we're paying all our employees, even though, like you, we are stuck in the mud. Yet
Yep.
we have to wait. We have to wait till Blackstone, the hedge fund, or Chase, J.P. Morgan Chase. Their website said they weren't being involved in the small business stimulus. Now they've changed their tune, but it's too late. We're who knows when we get any money. So anyway, there's a very good article today, by the way, not today, but in this month's Atlantic, by a guy named George Parker, and it talks about this whole American system is broken, and it's terrific. It's beautifully written, and the corrupt movie industry and the corrupt media cartel. And I noticed everybody jumped. Nobody's watching
No, you
because I'm
got.
serious. I have to work. I have to talk like a clown to get anyone to watch. I have to dress up like a woman unless.
No, this is fine. You're experiencing the brunt of this in New York City. I expected a serious conversation, and we've got people watching.
Yeah, I
I
know.
mean,
The point
this thing.
is, the system is fucked. Read this article in the Atlantic. It's beautifully written, and the media is just one corrupt, cancerous piece of our system. Right, our system that allows in spite of people dying, in spite of how many hundreds of thousands of people who will die. Jamie Dimon, CEO of Chase Bank, J.P. Morgan Chase, no problem with him. He's sitting out his fancy country estate, and worst thing that'll happen to him is his Perrier water might come a week later, right? And everybody licks his ass. Everybody loves him, and Wells Fargo, and everybody's all over these guys. They're heroes, right? And Shake Shack had to give back their money, and they're trying to position it like, oh yeah, we didn't really want to take it. They got shamed into it. And
Yeah,
hopefully there'll be lots of lawsuits.
yeah. Same with the Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. These are places that we should never eat again.
You're
Not that we would
absolutely right. You are right. And if
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. Yeah, we should stay away from them
We need to be
unless they gave the money
taking
back.
note of the companies that were helping during this time and shunning the ones that weren't.
Yeah, and the ones that have sort of given back the money, like Yale University, Harvard got shamed. They took money but from CARES, which is an educational fund. Harvard that
Right.
has like a $300 billion, and
Right.
they got
Giant
caught.
endowment.
They got caught, and now Yale is giving back their CARES money because they're such chicken shits, even though it's legal. It's legal, but the system is so broken, they get that money anyway.
Yeah. We do have a couple viewer questions, Lloyd. I think I can
Sure, thank you.
I can pop them up on screen here.
Sure, I'll put my glasses back on. Thank you.
Let's see.
How are you, buddy? You feeling okay?
Oh yeah, we're doing okay. Yeah,
Great.
the wife and I are fine, and I'm trying to be a little quiet because our daughter's sleeping. Last time I saw you, I didn't have a little girl. Now I've got a 2-year-old at home.
Oh wow.
So it's
Oh,
been
congratulations. That's
hey,
terrific.
thanks. Let's see. We've got a question that says, VIP party animal here. Will Shakespeare's Shitstorm premiere soon after the lockdown?
Very good question. Mutant Blast was in the middle of its Los Angeles. Mutant Blast is the movie we produced that was starting to play the theater. And Mutant Blast, after doing well in LA, we had to run back to New York, and the director went back to Portugal because we were lockdown. We opened the weekend of lockdown, and we still got 2 theaters to keep it going until they got locked down. So I think we have to deal with Mutant Blast in the theaters first, and then try to figure out. We have New York lined up for Mutant Blast, and maybe 2 theaters, one by one. And for Shakespeare's Shitstorm, and please use the hashtag if anybody out there is writing about Shakespeare's Shitstorm. It's hashtag Shakespeare's Shitstorm. You can go to that hashtag, and I think there's several thousand photographs and if you want to, if any of your fans want to see what we have done. But soon we'll we just don't know. We have no money because we're paying our employees, and can't really run around to take meetings. I can't go out to fillet people out in Los Angeles. So we're hamstrung. And we have to use all our money to pay the employees who really don't have much to do, but they're good guys, and we want to keep the team together. So, that's why it's outrageous that the banks behave that way. And I hope Jamie Dimon goes to jail. Never mind Wells Fargo, who are crooks and all should go to jail. And Boeing, they all should go to jail. They're all crooks, liars. Boeing are murderers. They murdered 700 people by ignoring failures in their shitty planes. But I'm not bitter. I love the Coolidge Corner Cinema.
Hey, don't follow up.
We are very grateful. We're very grateful at Troma to Coolidge Corner. And that was a good question. Thank you for the good question.
If you folks do have questions, please use that little question button at the bottom of the screen so that I can throw them up on screen for everybody to see. We've had good times with you over the years. I was reminiscing with someone today who was replying to our promotion of this little thing tonight by talking about the one of the Citizen Toxie screenings at the Coolidge, which has now become a legendary event at the Coolidge Corner Theater. It is the stuff of legend because Sergeant Kabuki Man was with you at that screening and got so intoxicated that he was vomiting all over the theater.
Yes, he did a very, I'll never forget it. It was projectile from the back of the theater up to about the 10th row.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, we were banned. I think we were banned for quite a while at Coolidge Corner after that.
Oh, but then they hired me and we brought you back we had you for Poultrygeist and Father's Day and the
we did Return to Newcomb High, I think.
And we did Return to Newcomb High and the very first Coolidge After Midnight Award.
Which I have in fact, I have it in my house. I don't keep very many awards at home. I usually keep them at Troma. But this is one of the very few that I have in my house. There's one.
Oh, wow.
Uh-oh, where is it? Where did it go? Oh, no. It must be somewhere. Sorry. But I only have 1 or 2.
Hey, listen.
In fact, here, look at the commissioner. Can you see the commissioner?
Oh, hey, the commish. Oh, it's nice to see you.
Hey.
Do you know where the midnight award is?
No. No, but it was a great honor and a great honor. Lloyd was very excited by it.
The honor was ours, and I think I got my second Troma diploma out of that night And I tell people that that's my master's degree.
I was just going to say, you need to bring him up one more time to get your PhD.
Well, thank you. See, good wife.
That's a plan.
First one. And
Okay,
I don't know if you watch the Blue Apron Trophy Wife on my Instagram, but it's a fascinating series of
I have.
Amazing Blue Apron moments.
Hey, are they still delivering in all this, Blue Apron?
Oh, the stock went way up because they're, these the people eating at home, and especially in New York where you can't go out. A lot of these places you can't go out. It's dangerous here. We already.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's people need to stay home. We've got some questions rolling in. Let's see. Let's see. These aren't real questions. Here's a question. Yeah.
Is on. Thank you. Thanks, Eric.
Here's a question of whether or not do you still hate Parker Posey? I don't know the story behind that.
I never hated her. I just thought it was performing as if she was going to give herself a high five. What happened to her, by the way? She's in some great movies, though, right? She's wonderful.
She's still doing stuff.
Yeah, it's just not my favorite type of acting, but she's in some very good movies. Parker Posey, yeah, and Trey Parker also is in some great movies.
Oh, I didn't realize they were related.
Huh?
I didn't realize they were related.
Well, Trey's related to everybody, and Cannibal the Musical should have had Parker Posey should have been in Cannibal the Musical.
Okay, I see some questions rolling by on the chat here, but people should be using this button at the bottom, little question mark button, but I'll ask this one. This one says, hey, Lloyd, any word on a release date for the new Toxic project with Macon Blair?
Very good question. Thank you for that. Macon Blair, if they let him direct the movie, and they say they will, it's going to Toxic Avenger, the big-time Toxic Avenger is going to be very, very good. For those of you who don't know Macon Blair, he wrote Green Room, among other movies, and he's in Murder Party. He may have done that too. And he made one really good movie, only one movie called I Don't Feel Safe in This World Anymore. The guy is really an original thinker, and Macon Blair loves Troma. He's obsessed with Terra Firma and Troma's War, and these very personal movies that we've made, and it's going to be great. I've read the script to the billion-dollar Toxic Avenger, and it's better than the original. They are trying to find Legendary is the company, and they've been trying to find a marquee for the theatrical distribution. They have a deal with Warner Brothers, and I think they're required to have, they track this stuff and whatever. But if Macon gets to make the movie, it's going to be good, and it'll be R-rated. And he's not interested in baby food, which is a nice thing. Let's hope if it gets made, Uncle Lloyd gets a nice check, and I'll be able to bring you more Troma movies.
Oh, I hope it happens.
So for there are fanboys who say, remakes are terrible and don't do the remakes. But if you study history, as Matt, you and I have done, you know that A Star Is Born is the third iteration of. It's one of the greatest movies ever made. It's the third iteration. All Quiet on the Western Front. The sound version is much better than the silent version. Evil Dead 2. I can go on and on. So there's nothing wrong with a remake or the problem is they get a lot of the remakes in the past. They haven't paid attention to getting a good director. They get sort of the second-rate one and try to piggyback. But now I think there's a different business, a different modus operandi in the mainstream, where they try to get young, interesting people to make the sequel better than the original. It didn't do too well with the new Star Wars, but it's still okay. It's not bad.
Here's a question that says, hey, Lloyd, Mother's Day is a great film, but it's hard to find. Any chance you'll make that more available soon? Where can people find Mother's Day?
The good news, Gore Girl, if that's you, is that Mother's Day is playing on Troma Now, uncut and beautifully preserved, or how you say, the negative has been cleaned up. And I think there is a very nice Blu-ray, maybe. I know there's a DVD, so you can definitely get the DVD. You go to traumadirect.com and you can buy the DVD, or better yet, go on Trauma Now for a month. It's free for a month, and watch Trauma Mother's Day and Mutant Blast. No, not Mutant Blast. It's not up yet. And all our movies, all our libraries, pretty much up on Trauma Now, as well as about 300 new movies by young James Gunn of the future. We have a lot of new movies like The Slashing and Fear Town, USA, and that are by young, exciting new talent, the Samuel Jacksons of the future, or the Trey Parkers of the future, or whatever. So check out Trauma Now. Mother's Day is there.
That leads to our next question, which
By the way, next day, the thing, Mother's Day is written and directed by Charles Kaufman, who was my brother, who also made When Nature Calls, which is one of Trauma's funniest documentaries. And finally, he also made Jakarta, which is very hard to find also because it's buried in MGM libraries. But he has a big bakery. If anybody lives in San Diego, like I saw Christy Moses on here, who's in our Shakespeare Shitstorm, drop in on Bread and Sea, on Bread and CIE. It's on it's in Hillcrest on the University Avenue. Charles Kaufman. And if you go in there, say the health department, and then found some olive loaf dough, and he'll go batshit. Or send people in there. Who's in the health department or whatever you go.
The one I just put up, speaking of Trauma Now, but this question is, what's the best way to support Trauma through the lockdown?
I think help us out and subscribe. Be a paid subscriber to Trauma Now, because everybody's concerned about the artists during the COVID, and Tom Hanks gets on, and all these big time $20 million a movie people get on. Oh, we have to save Regal Theaters. It's the American multi-cinema. Nobody talks about the independent cinemas except for Trauma, maybe Kevin Smith, and. So that's kind of where it's at. I think we have to fight for the kind of exhibitor we want, like Coolidge Corner. I don't know what happens after this. I just know that AMC has its hand out. Probably already got its money. It's a Chinese-owned company too, but they probably have lobbyists and all that crap. Fuck them.
Yeah, they're talking.
I answered the question. Did I answer the question? I don't think I did.
You answered the question that people can go to Trauma Now.
Yes, please subscribe to watch.trauma.com. Watch.trauma.com. And it's $4.99 a month. You'll be helping independent filmmakers, independent artists who make shorts, feature-length documentaries. And if you out there have a movie that you would like put on Trauma Now, we can you just hit me up on Twitter or Instagram, and I'll send you the email of the gentleman who is the curator of Trauma Now. But that would help us a lot if we could get Trauma needs help, for God's sakes. We have no help from anybody else, and we so after you've contributed and helped Coolidge Corner, join Trauma Now. The movies are great. They're terrific.
There's a question here that's kind of appropriate for this evening. Tonight's the premiere of the new Joe Bob Briggs program on Shudder, and they're screening Trauma films tonight. But this question is, have you thought about going on the Joe Bob Briggs Last Drive-In program as a guest? Have they invited you?
I can't talk about it.
Oh, good, great.
I signed, what do you call it? They call it
an NDA, non-disclosure.
NDA, right. This says no NBA. I signed an NDA. I don't know what
that's how I first discovered. Well, in a similar fashion is how I first discovered your films. When I was a kid, I used to watch USA Up All Night with Rhonda Shear, and I caught the Toxic Avenger special where you and Toxie were on the show with Rhonda, and I was probably 10 years old.
Ah,
Look what you did to me.
seems to me you turned out fine. You've got two
Yeah,
kids,
yeah, no, I'm
lovely
doing
wife,
great.
and
Doing
a
really good.
beautiful theater. You're doing just what you want to do. It's terrific. And you're helping mankind or womankind with your wonderful programming because
Oh, thank you, Lloyd.
it's hard to find. Very hard to find.
Let's
Only
see.
Home Now. Movies that are uncensored and all independent, and most of them one of a kind, and all genres too, even short films and documentaries and comic books. So if any of you have any out there, contact me on Instagram or contact Matt, and maybe we can show some of your movies. You make
People should reach out if they've got original films.
By the way, I saw
yes.
that Many Skins at Many Skins, very talented special effects person, and her blood, her make your own damn blood lesson is all over Troma's social. It's very, very good. It's on my Instagram, of course. So if any of you make your own damn movies, check out Manny Skins. I check her Instagram. I'm pretty sure it's up there too. But at Lloyd Kaufman, it's definitely in my story, and it's on my feed. But check with Manny Skins too, and she's a wonderful artist, sketcher, and in fact, we've been coloring inks and using them as our advertisement for your theater in large part.
Oh, great. Most of these questions in here are not questions; they're comments. There's some folks that are saying that that you look like $1 million, Lloyd. There's a comment in there. You look like $1 million. I saw one question in there that asked if you thought that Lemmy Kilmister today would make a better president than Donald Trump.
Well, if you see Return to Nukem High and Return to Nukem High, aka Volume 2, did we play that at the Coolidge Corner?
We did Volume 1. I don't know how we missed you for Volume 2, but we did Volume 1.
Yeah, Volume 2 is still playing around. The commissioner and I just did a 5-theater tour in Texas for the COVID with Volume 2. Went
Cool.
Very well. So we ought to plan that out post-COVID. After COVID-19. When we get COVID Pro, we can settle up. We'll come out to you guys. Thank you.
We'd love to have you back. You guys are some of the best guests we've ever had. I mean, I've never seen better guests with an audience.
No,
here's a question: Reanimator or Flesh for Frankenstein? Which was a bigger influence, if at all? Oh, you were making movies before Reanimator.
Sure, I was making movies before the original Frankenstein. Come on, I was out there when Nosferatu was being made by not with Charlie Chaplin. No, I think Frankenstein, the original, is a huge influence on me. And obviously you can see that with the Toxic Avenger because I always wanted the monster to live. And Chaplin, of course, with the blind, his significant other was blind. That's directly from City Lights. And there's a lot going on. But Frankenstein always was big. Again, I'm 74 years old. When I was your age when I saw, I was 10 years old or 9.
Let's see. We seem to have lost your audio, Lloyd. Hi, everybody. We're gonna try to get Lloyd back for to see if we can learn the secret. He was telling us the secret of life, and there was no audio. So we're gonna get him back, and Lloyd Kaufman will tell you why we live. Oh, hey.
Can you hear?
Yes. We got you.
Reconnected. Well, it's working now. Thank you.
Yeah, now it's working. Sorry about
Right.
that. I'm not sure.
No,
These are the times we're living in, I guess.
exactly. End of days. It's the
Yeah.
End of days.
There was a question in there before we left that someone was asking about how you and the commish have been spending your time over these last few weeks.
Commish, you want to answer that question? How are we spending time? Why don't you talk a little bit?
You sitting there being in a very bad mood.
Well, why don't you tell? Commish is saying that I sit in one spot in a very bad mood, and I read or I talk to fans or I am totally unproductive and depressed, I guess. However, yes.
I cook, I clean.
Yeah, Pat, the commissioner, has for the first time in her life cleaned a toilet, if I'm not mistaken, and I should do that myself, and I told her I would. And we've discovered something called a Swifter, which is very exciting. Very good, right, Pat? And so the commissioner is very, very busy, and she's like running the household. We have a daughter here, Charlotte. If you've seen Terra Firma, she was the mute child in Terra Firma, and she is here to be the caregivers. And I have I'm not supposed to go out at all. And because we're frail, the only time we go out really, I put the garbage out, and every night at 7 o'clock we applaud the New York City frontline heroes. And I play my clarinet a little bit to wake up the neighbors. Other than that, we're pretty inactive. I did watch Midnight Gospel. Anybody see that? Midnight Gospel on Netflix is a cartoon.
Oh.
If anybody's got mushrooms, that's a good one.
I saw the footage of you playing your clarinet.
Huh?
I saw the footage of you playing your clarinet on your Instagram. Yeah. How long had it been since you picked that thing up?
At least 40. Yeah, I hope. 8th grade. It's got to be 60 years.
You never know it.
Oh, hold it. The commissioner says wrong.
You played it for better.
Yeah, I guess around 1970 was the last time. Yeah, best about when I wrote the music for Battle of Love's Return, I used the clarinet to be able to put the notes in the music, and then a friend of mine who could arranged it. So I wrote the tunes, but I haven't used it since. So. I've been practicing Peter and the Wolf, the cat music, Prokofiev's Peter and the Wolf. The clarinet is the cat.
Right. Yeah.
It's a piece he wrote for 3-year-olds, and maybe in a couple of years I'll master it.
I think we've got time for just a couple more questions. If anybody wanted to submit them using the question button below, that's how I can best get your questions to Lloyd. We've just got
again, if you have we don't get to all your questions, or you have some questions that personal or whatever, at Lloyd Kaufman on Instagram or Twitter, or I don't really look at Facebook too much, but I'm very available on Twitter and Instagram. In fact, on the Trauma Facebook, Saturday and Sunday morning. Saturday we have cartoons, and Sunday I think we have every Sunday there's a PG family trauma movie for people, all free on Trauma's Facebook.
Here's a question. What does Lloyd think about the Rocky sequels?
I think the 5th one was the most. I think the John Avildsen Rocky were the best. The 1st one and the 5th one. The 5th one especially because it was dark and kind of sad, and although I got cut out of it. But Avildsen, John G. Avildsen, for whom #Shakespeare's Shitstorm is dedicated on screen. Oh, wow. And Stan Lee also both died the same year. So Avildsen was a big influence on me. In fact, on Trauma Now, you can see Cry Uncle, which is a wonderful, hilarious slapstick comedy. In fact, Coolidge Corner ordered a Avildsen. We own 2 John Avildsen movies. One called Foreplay, starring Zero Mostel and Estelle Parsons. It's really 3 short films, but the Zero Mostel, Estelle Parsons one is just amazing. And Mostel portrays Nixon, and Estelle plays his wife, and they get blackmailed. Their daughter gets kidnapped, and unless they fuck on screen, they're gonna unless they fuck on screen, the daughter will be killed or something like that. It's terrific, and Zero Mostel is as good as he is in The Producers. He goes all the way, and then Cry Uncle is a hilarious slapstick X-rated takeoff on of those film noir like Cry Terror and those dark films from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. They were black and white, but Cry Uncle is in color. It was very successful, and it's on Troma now. It's hilarious. It's nobody famous, but Alan Garfield stars in it. It was a good example for filmmakers of a movie that would have been schlock if John P. Avildsen hadn't gotten involved, because originally it was sort of a soft-core detective movie or James Bond kind of a movie based on a pulpy airport paperback book, and Avildsen changed the hero into a fat slob and a short fat slob, and teamed him up with a very tall, thin actor, female actor, and it's a wonderful film. I play a hippie in it, a LSD hippie.
I'll try to work them into a program soon.
Well, it'd be an interesting, maybe you try it. Avildsen's he and George Romero, in my opinion, are the two most underrated American directors.
Here's a question from the group that says, what are the unique challenges of filming scenes with morbidly obese actors, and who's your favorite?
Well, the star, Troma's action star from 1985 through 2 years ago was Joe Fleischaker, who was in Poultrygeist Night of the Chicken Dead, if you want to see it. He's got a wonderful part there, which he pretty much created himself. And he wrote a lot of his own. We would write his part, and he'd rewrite it and make it funnier. And we also made a tribute to him. He died, and we made a tribute to him, which you can find, I think, on our Troma Movies on YouTube, which is all free. You can still see a lot of Troma movies if you don't have any money. You can see a lot of pretty good ones on Troma's movie channel. But unfortunately, YouTube keeps demonetizing and censoring and kicking stuff off. So 5 years ago, we started moving everything over to Troma now.
This question comes in asking, how do you feel about John Cassavetes' films?
I love them. They're great. And again, these are from the 60s. And I have to say, he was very inspiring. He was a major inspiration. And my mother used to have a place for the summer. And the Westport County Playhouse was a summer stock theater. And Ben Gazzara, Cassavetes, they would stay with us. I was a little kind of a stupid teenager or whatever. But, college student, so I didn't really have much interaction. But, those were great movies. And in fact, they got more and more entertaining as time went on. His wife is in that one, this small child. I can't remember the name of it. It's wonderful. Good question. He was totally independent, too. He was terrific.
Absolutely, yeah. A question from the chat asking also what you think about Kenneth Anger's films.
I loved certainly the inspiration from the Pleasure Dome. I love that one, and the motorcycle one, which is his most famous. What was it called again? The one with the motorcycles. Anyway, I read his book. It's an interesting question about Kenneth Anger. He wrote a book called Hollywood Babylon, and a lot of it is incorrect, and which I thought so. And there's a very good blog, a podcast called "You Must Remember This." And hey, Reg Bloor just started a live video. She has music in hashtag Shakespeare. I'm going to take that music out now. She's competing with me. This is terrible. Reg Bloor, she's very good, very experimental jazz. Anyway, I can't remember what I was saying, but I'm sure it was fascinating.
Other question. There's a question in here saying, I think you answered it. Yeah. You like Kenneth Anger.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I wanted to say, check the podcast. You must remember this, because she's got about 15, maybe 30 or 40 chapters of different characters that he talks about, and she goes and sets the record straight. She's very entertaining, and where he's wrong, she tells you. And if you're interested in movie history, the first 100 years of cinema, this woman is terrific. And now, of course, I can't remember her name because I'm sky high on cat tranquilizer, but it may come to me. Somebody Longworth, Longstreet. Anyway, you must remember this.
Karina Longworth.
Yeah, what's it?
Is it Karina Longworth?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
She's got some books out. Very good, a couple of good, extremely good books. She's great. So check it out. You know her?
I don't know her, but I know her work.
Yeah, she's serious. And she talks a lot about anger, and he was a child actor, apparently. I did not know that. And but the one you don't hear much about is, I think, Invitation to the Pleasure Dome, which is quite, and thinking that it was made in the early 60s, I think it's a very seminal movie, but I don't think people talk about it too much. But again, I'm older. When I was at Yale, my roommate ran the Yale Film Society. We used to come down to New York to see Anger at the Cinema 16 or the New York Cinematheque. There was a guy named P. Sidney Adams who published Films in Focus, and it was all under. This was back in the 60s.
I think we've got time for one last question, and this one is: can you remember the first time you wanted to explore how films are made, and what triggered it?
I've written 7 books, and one of the books is called All I Need to Know About Filmmaking. I learned from the Toxic Avenger. And this first book that I wrote, James Gunn wrote. So it's very funny, and it talks about how when I went to Yale, I was put in a room with a movie fanatic. I had no thought of making movies. I didn't even go to the movies. But he ran the Yale Film Society, and he was into, he and another guy were heavy into auteur filmmaking. So I drifted to their screens from time to time. Yale was all boys in those days, of course, so I was dates and in the auditorium, and never successful. But my mind kept getting blown. Kenneth Anger, Jerry Lewis, Chaplin, Keaton, John Ford, Howard Hawks, Samuel Fuller, Fritz Lang in Germany, Leni Riefenstahl, René Clair, and Jean Renoir. Anyway, finally one night I was watching Ernst Lubitsch's To Be or Not to Be, a movie remade by Mel Brooks. Not a bad remake, and a good remake. But the original is just a masterpiece, and I was blown away by it, and it was right then and there in that theater, and there were only about 2 other people watching. As in those days it was about more. The Film Society, to make its budget, would show Russ Meyer and James Bond, and they'd make the budget for the year with that. And but they were auteur people, and they had a big stack of magazines from the French Cinematheque, Cahiers de Cinema, and me being 100% bourgeois, I speak French, so I started reading through that stuff. And the articles in the early 60s and mid 60s were by Godard and the other Chabrol, who were, hey, the thing from Tromaville is here, very nice artist. And I started to buy into the auteur theory of film. And then in my senior year, I had 2 job possibilities. One was with the Hollywood Columbia Pictures movie called The Owl and the Quill, starring Babs Streisand. And the other was cleaning toilets for a little independent movie company in New York. And I took acid, and I decided that I would take the shitty little company and stay in New York and auteur cinema. And obviously a big mistake.
Lloyd, thanks so much for doing this tonight. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Well, thank you, Matt. And thank you for all the fans who've been so kind to pay attention, especially since we're opposite Joe Bob Briggs, and they're playing Blood Freaks and Jericho, the wrestler. Jericho, I can't remember his first name, but he's got a great podcast. Go to listen to it. I've been on it a couple of times. He's a great wrestler. But anyway, he's the host with Joe Bob tonight, and they're playing Bloodsucking Freaks, which is the only movie in 50 years, in 47 years of trauma that I think Michael Hers and I, were it to come along today, we would probably take a Pasadena on it. So evil. But it's funny as hell, and it's become a huge hit. And I think the hashtag Me Too crowd gets that it's a huge thing of its time, and that it's actually probably at this point a good education movie to show what not to do. But it's funny as fuck. And we just got our first 2 licensing deals. So even though Joel Reed is dead, the writer-director, I don't think anything's going to kill Bloodsucking Freaks, except that I have no intention of doing Bloodsucking Freaks Part 2. And a number of fans mentioned that there was a script for that in Joel Reed's apartment, but not for me.
Well, everybody should subscribe to Trauma now, right?
Yes, sir. And
everybody that can.
And support the Coolidge Corner, especially the midnight program.
Oh, thanks, Lloyd.
Thank
well,
you.
My best to you and the commission. Thank you very much. My best to you and Pat. And
listen to every word. She's very
oh,
happy.
okay, right. She's right there.
Hold on. Let me.
Hold on. Nice to see you.
She's leaning on every word. she's definitely heard. She's been locked up with me for 6 weeks now, and I hope she survives.
You guys take care. We'll talk to you soon. I hope, and we'll have you back at the Coolidge when all this is over.
Yeah, you bet. And if you're in New York, by all means, come by Traumaville, and we'll take good commission. You can stay with us. The commission, I'll take good care of you.
Thank you, Lloyd.
Just keep 6 feet apart.
Yeah, right.
If I jump into bed with you, don't allow it. All righty. Thank you again to the fans.
Take care.
Of Massachusetts, and especially Boston actress and Manny Skins and all the other fans in Boston. Not to Harvard, though. Thank you. Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.